Okay, today we're dealing with a 2008 Tacoma. It should be the same from 2005 to 2008. The problem is when I accelerate, this thing is vibrating. And the problem came out to be the rear joint. So the U-joint on the drive shaft, the rear U-joint, you can see how much it's moving. Okay, so these both, this piece and this piece, they should be moving at the same, they should be moving same amount, but can you hold the other side? Yep. So you can see how much it's moving. So there's a lot of play, so we're going to be replacing this. To replace this U-joint, you are going to need a 14 millimeter, 2 wrenches, or you can put a socket on this side if you have a shallow enough socket. So we're taking 4 of these bolts off. There's 1, 2, the third one is on this side, and there's one more. So those 4 needs to come off. Before you start taking these bolts off, it's just a good idea, just so it doesn't go out of balance or anything goes wrong. I've put a mark here, I've put a mark here, and I've put a mark on the yoke. So it's all 3 marks. When I'm going to put it back together, all 3 will line up. So on this drive shaft, when you start taking once you got all 4 bolts off here, you come to the middle of it. So mine is a 2 shaft, it's now 1 piece. You have to cut off this clamp right here. So you could just use a screwdriver, whatever works for you, cut off this clamp. There are 2, there's one here. I'd rather do this big one. Okay, I can see the splines that way, so we're gonna cut off this clamp. Okay, once the clamp is off, we have taken the clamp off. So this rubber boot or the dust boot is, you can move it back and forth. Now we're gonna go to the back. We need to split this drive shaft between the yoke and here. So this is where it needs to be split. So you can use a screwdriver, some sort of pry bar, pry it here, and move these away. So we're gonna use the screwdriver, go in here, pry it out. Once it's off, now we just pull this straight out. So let's just pull this straight out. There we go. So we have our shaft. We have our shaft in our hand. Once we have the drive shaft held in a vise or somewhere secure, we need to remove the 4 C-clips. And we're going to just use a needle nose plier to squeeze these together and pop them out. Sometimes they're rusted. In this case, they are rusted. So there are 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're using the needle nose and it's working for us. And then just pry them out. Just pull them out. We're going to put new ones in. There you go. So just like that, remove all 4 of these. Once we have all 4 C-clips out, we are going to move to the next step. We're going to start popping these out. I'm sure there are some fancy tools out there to get these off. I'll just show you the way I do it. If you don't like it, you don't have to follow. So the way I'm going to do this is I have 2 of these sides, this side and this side. They're sitting on the vise. Everything else is suspended. You can see that the rest of the shaft is not touching. And what you want to do is you can lightly hammer here. Don't hammer at the edge here, because if you start hammering here, sometimes it bends in and then you got to file it off or you got to grind it off. Or you can take a socket which is big enough that you can place on here and you can hammer that. You can see it's coming up, okay, compared to this one. You can see how far it's out, and you just keep doing that until it pops out. You can see it's popping out. Just keep doing that until it just pops out. just have to make sure that the socket is bigger than the universal joint. See, it's popping out, and you can sometimes grab it with pliers, or let's just do the other side. And we're gonna do the same thing, and you can see how badly this is rusted. So that's why the U-joint is gone. The grease didn't get to that one. The grease is getting to the rest of them, but it didn't get to that one. So it might be blocked on that side. Okay, so I'm gonna just turn it around, and now I'm gonna do this side. I'm gonna do the same thing. So once we have it far enough, I'm just gonna use a vice grip, lock it on, and pop it off. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with the other side. So there's our second side. Just keep twisting it. Eventually it'll pop out. And you can see the condition of this U-joint. I just got to slide it out. Just going to slide it out. Okay. There you go, you can see this is what was causing it. So the three joints are, this joint was fine, these two are fine, this is the one that's gone. And now we're gonna do these two. So for the other two, same deal. Once you have it off, balance it on the vise. These two, you can balance those. And then we hammer here, and this will pop out, then we turn it around, that will pop out. There you go, it popped out. Okay. And the same thing, just use a vice grip, pull this off, and the U-joint will come out. Okay. You can knock it off from this side if this is what happens to yours. Get some emery cloth, just clean all these holes. You don't need to spend too much time. Just get, if there's rust, these are fairly clean. Just if it's rust, clean that on all four, two of these and two on the shaft, these two. And one more thing you want to do is clean this groove where the C-clip goes, where the snap ring goes. Just clean that groove of any debris, any mud, any rust. So here's our new U-joint. When I ordered this U-joint, they asked me if I do 4x4ing and do, you know, just not normal driving, just a bit more than normal driving. So they had two options. I asked for the heavy duty one. So it should come with one U-joint. Okay, so we have one brand new U-joint with a grease point, and we have C-clips. We have 4 C-clips. Okay. So you remove the two caps, two side caps. It's got pins inside. Make sure these pins don't fall in. I've had this happen before where the pin fell in and we pressed it, and when we pressed it, the pin got stuck in here. We had to take everything apart. Good thing the pin didn't break. Sometimes the pin could break too, so be careful with stuff like that. So take that off. Just make sure you don't lay it down where you get some stuff on it, some dirt, grease. Okay. Take the cap, put the cap in. Just push it with your hand as much as you can. Okay. Then we take our U-joint. This is where you got to be careful. Sorry, you got to take the other one off too. Slide it up first, and you want to go very straight. You don't want to drop those pins. Go very straight in. Okay. And then we're going to put this in the vise, and we are going to push this cap in as far as we can. Okay. Once it's all the way in, don't keep pressing it because you don't want to squeeze these two jaws here on the yoke, break it or bend it. Just get the cap in. Okay, as far as it goes in. And now we're going to gently get the other side in. We're going to do the same thing. At this point, I'm going to move it slightly back and forth just to make sure that my pins are still there. They haven't fallen. Okay. Get this cap in. Once that cap is in, you want to find a socket that is smaller than this outside diameter. Okay, we're going to use this socket to push this in farther. We just got to go past that groove where the C-clip is going to sit. Okay, so this should be past that groove. Yep, it is. So I'm going to just install that C-clip here. So we're going to take our needle nose. Make sure that C-clip is sitting all the way in the groove. Now we're going to go do the same thing on this side. I'm going to put the socket here and push it in to a point where I can put the C-clip in. So for the other side, same thing. We're just going to push that in until we're past the point, just a little bit more. There we go. So I'm clear of the groove. I'm going to put that C-clip in. Now we're going to do the same thing on this. I'm going to remove the caps. I'm going to put the caps in first. Exactly what I've done, so I might not record that. What's important here is you make sure that, remember those marks that we put on? So there's my mark, there's my mark. Rather than putting it this way, I would want to match my marks. I'm going to match that mark with this mark. So when I'm installing everything together, that's how I'm going to install it. So I'm just going to, what I'm checking here is so it doesn't come off on the inside, because then it's going to be hard for me to put the U-joint back in. So now we're ready to put on our last cap. So it's the same idea, just be gentle, make sure it's going straight in. The worst thing you can do is, again, you can drop those pins. So I'm just going to go up and down, make sure I'm in straight line before I start tightening it up. For a bit, I thought people that made these, they messed up, but I guess I'm the one that's messing up. One of the 3 C-clips or the snap rings that you get, it's different. It looks like this. This one goes where the grease point is, because if I put this one in, it covers where the grease point is going to go. So you need to put the different one. Okay. So I haven't used the grease point that came with it, just because my grease gun doesn't have that fitting. I just used my old one. Once you have the grease point on, just make sure you grease it, and you grease it until the start, you see the grease popping out of here. So you can see the grease just popped out of there, right there. There. So just make sure it's popped out, and then we're good to go. We're ready to install. So we're going to match these splines here, but more, what I'm going to do is I'm going to match this mark with the 3rd mark that I put on the differential yoke. So I'm going to match that mark there. Okay, so I'm going to install this. So there we go. So my mark is matching. Okay, we're going to put the bolts back on. We're going to torque them up. So the torque for these is 65 foot-pounds. So torque them to 65 foot-pound, and to get to all of them, depending on the position you're in, you'll have to have the wheels off the ground, because you got to spin the drive shaft. Like, I can't put the torque wrench on the top here, so I'm going to have to spin the wheels. To do that, I have to lift the vehicle off the ground. The thing we have to do is we got to put the clamp back here. You can buy these universal CV joint clamps or CV boot clamps. I have a fancy tool for it, but you don't really need it. It doesn't have to be that tight. So if you happen to have this tool, you can use it, or you can just use a pair of pliers, tighten it as much as you can, pull it with a plier, and then you bend these 2 tabs down. Okay, you fold this over. I'll show you this. So on my tool, So it goes through here, and we tighten it up as much as we can. There was a wrench here. Okay, let me grab a wrench. On my wrench, let's tighten it up. Once it's tight, bring it around, go over to the other side, and then you can just bend these two tabs that are going to hold. So bend that tab, bend this tab, and you cut this extra off, and that's our job.